All right. So we're recording this just a day after you competed at HYROX Melbourne.
Yes.
How was that? How was that event?
Well, being completely honest, I mean, I actually did a post about this. I was not stoked with how I raced. I mean, ultimately, I topped my age group. I came second overall, but it was in opens. It wasn't in pro, and it wasn't my. I didn't race the way I had intended to. And I know we were talking a little bit about it just before, but Will, who's my mixed doubles partner and husband, we both actually got sick at the World Championships, and I think coming back because it takes us such a long flight as well to get back all the way to Australia. We just I just don't think we're fully recovered. As in, William, poor thing, is fully in bed today, bedridden, sick again. So yeah, not my best race, but learned a lot, and I was a bit. It was one of the only times in a competition setting that I've thought about stopping because I actually looked at my heart rate and it was so high that I thought maybe this isn't my race today. But I'm actually really proud of myself that even though everything was going wrong and it felt really bad, that I stuck with it and I got the race done. So not my proudest moment in competing, but a proud moment of getting it done
Yeah.
is I guess the lesson that I learned on the day.
It's still a very good time at the end of the day. I mean,
Yeah. But
I know.
when you train for what you know you're capable of,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's actually one thing that I was trying to communicate on my social media was that I'm not sitting comparing my times to other people. I'm comparing my times to myself and what I know I'm capable of.
Mhm. I was thinking about it actually. It's a kind of funny time frame for you guys in particular. So to try and like peak for the World Championships,
Yeah.
and then like 3 weeks later you're trying to do another race, whereas everyone's almost in off season except you
Yes.
guys. It's a strange period, I would imagine, and especially when you've been suffering with illness to a certain extent as well.
Yeah. It is
Yeah,
it is it is weird. I mean, we were so excited to come back and go straight into Australian season. But yeah, it's been a little bit more challenging than expected. And I think because we don't know when the majors are and how to prepare for them and what dates, we kind of need to wait until they're released so that we know when we can take some off season. If that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. Let's we'll talk about Nice and so on in a bit, but let's talk a
Sick.
little bit about your background. Um, how old are you first? Can I ask?
I'm 26, well, almost 27 actually in August. So
Okay. So sporting wise, what were you doing when you were younger?
Well, since I was probably 3 years old until I was 10, I was an elite gymnast, as in did the hours before and after school, didn't have much of a social life, but loved it. And then when I was about 10, we just realized that I didn't really want a career. Well, a career in gymnastics was not my number one focus, because it was 2 hours before school, 2 hours after school. It was just a lot, and I did really love school as well. So then after that, we were going to a really great school, and they actually put me in a group sport called sports aerobics, and it was my first time being in a team, and I was actually so bad at it that I was in the back row of the bottom team, and the girl in the front row of my team did a high leg kick, so like kicked her leg up and fell on her bum in the competition. So I was terrible, but a little bit about sports aerobics because it's a bit of a weird sport, or I guess a random sport. Not many people know about it. It's actually bigger in Europe than it is in Australia. So it's a 2 minute routine of the most high intensity exercise you've ever done in your life, and you have to smile while doing it. You have to be flexible on both sides of, like, both legs. You need to be strong on both of your arms, as in we would do one arm push-ups and things mid routine. And you have to be able to show that you can maintain your energy from the start until the end. And so it kind of looks like dance slash gymnastics, but to like an energizer bunny running around the stage. I feel like that's the only way I can explain it. But it's sick if you do know of this sport. It's very cool. And when I started, I was in the bottom team. I was terrible at it, and then I trained and I got recruited to go and do individuals rather than in a group, because I think they saw I was strong from gymnastics, but just hadn't quite gotten the knack of aerobics. And then I actually trained for 6 years, and I ended up winning worlds. So that was my sport before HYROX. So it's actually my second time being a world champion, which is amazing. It was a dream of mine to be a world champion more than once, and even better to be able to do it with my husband, the second time around, obviously in HYROX. And then now I didn't go straight into HYROX. We're actually really new to HYROX because it only just came to Australia. So gymnastics, then aerobics, then mainly just gym in general, functional gym, and then more recently running in the last 3 years, I'd say.
Okay. I've got to say the Energizer Bunny is a great description. I looked you up on YouTube and saw like the routine at the World Championships, and it's
Yeah,
intense.
it is. It's very intense. It's a very different kind of sport than what most people think it is.
Do you think that set you up well for what you're doing now in HYROX?
I mean, definitely it's a sorry, I take my jumper off. Definitely it's a different duration. I mean, we go from 2 minutes to 50 minutes to an hour. So I think it set me up with a great mindset and knowing what it takes to be at a high level as an athlete, as in I live a very focused lifestyle, as in I we don't drink, it's super clean, we go to bed on time, like we do all the little one percenters, which I think is what it takes to be performing at a high level. But in terms of training, not necessarily. I think our running in the last couple of years has probably helped us more. And just, I mean, I lived that hybrid lifestyle before we even knew it was a sport. And then the sport just was a sick sport. It really suited us well.
Was there a reason you stopped with the aerobics, or is it just I've been world champ now time for something else?
It's a great question, actually. There was a reason. I competed and actually won when I was 15, so not top age. And the next year I went back and competed again as top age because the age group was 14 to 16. And most people don't win until they are top age, just because, I mean, the older person tends to be more experienced and better, but I mean, each to their own. And when I went back the following year, my focus was so winning focus. That's all I wanted to do was just win. And actually stuffed up my routine a little bit for the first time ever across the 6 years when I actually competed, and I came second overall by point 0.1. And so it was actually a pivotal moment for me when I realized that it's so important for you to love what you do rather than just do it to win. Because the year that I won Worlds, I loved the sport so much and I didn't expect to win, and winning was just the best thing ever. But the year that I came second, I wasn't actually doing it just because I love the sport. I just wanted to win. And then when I didn't win, I felt like I'd wasted the whole year. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was actually when I realized that I didn't love the sport, or else obviously everyone wants to win, but when you come second, it doesn't feel like you've wasted the whole year. You're fired up to go again the next year and be better. And I just realized at that point that I didn't love the sport anymore. And ultimately that's when I stopped doing it. And then I'd never thought I missed competing so much. So I never thought I would get the opportunity to get that competition back. So yeah, freaking love HYROX.
It's like it basically sounds like it became more about the result than like the process. And it's interesting actually. I put on our Instagram recently, like asking people like why they compete, why they train in HYROX, and like the response is never or was hardly ever like because I want to get X time or X result. There's always like this deep, really deep, sometimes underlining meaning to it. Whereas like we talk so much about results and times, and that's not really why anyone's there in reality. It was quite interesting. But um
Mm.
let's talk about HYROX. How I think like your race in Nice at the World Championship, was that only your second race ever?
Yeah, yeah, because so my husband and I basically the way that we met and sort of connected, I guess, is over an equal level of loving to hurt and just train hard. I think he actually out one of us. I know this is not the question you asked, but I'll segue back to it. I think the second time we actually hung out was he challenged me to a workout because he thought he could beat me, and I absolutely smoked him. So he learned quickly not to do that again. But yeah, we've always loved doing challenging things. We ran a few ultra marathons, but it was not it's not the thing that you want to do and train for every week. We just love challenging our minds by doing things that seem impossible, and then people realize more is possible, or that's what I think we're driven by, pushing our own limits. And then our good friends, Lucy and Ben Howden, I don't know if you know them. They have a great podcast in the UK as well. And they had just competed at HYROX, and we were traveling last year. And they told us about HYROX, and we said, oh, well, we'll just go and try it. But we had actually, we've just recently started our own performance running brand. And so we were traveling for 8 months last year in Europe to establish that and make connections with manufacturers and create the stuff that we did. And so when we came back, we were actually really out of shape, as in we hadn't trained in, I reckon we'd been in a gym maybe 4 times the time that we'd been in Europe. We'd been running, but our focus was definitely on the business rather than our own training. And we also went to Nepal when we were there. So we just needed a break after it, because we were there for 6 weeks, and Nepal altitude just sucks the life out of your muscles. And so when we came back, we had Melbourne a week later, and we didn't know anything about HYROX. We had no idea what to expect, and we just signed up and thought we'll have a crack. And it turned out we were really good at it. So I think we actually won overall mixed doubles for Australia, and that was the very first comp that they had in Australia. And then obviously there was only Sydney, and then no other comps until Worlds in Oz. So yes, Worlds was our second ever HYROX comp, and I think it was just under a year after we competed at Melbourne.
Were you like, from that moment when you competed and qualified, were you then like working towards Nice? Was that your focus training wise up to? I mean, it was because it's such a long time frame, like almost a year, really.
Great. Yeah, it was good because it did give us a really long time to train and prepare for it. So we did a big strength block, and then refocused on running and getting our base back, because we really had lost so much muscle when we were in Nepal. So I think we needed the year. And even going to Worlds, I think fired us up even more, because we just didn't realize, Australia feels like it's so isolated from HYROX until probably this year. Or even now, as in people are just starting to hear about it in Australia. And so we just didn't know how big it was until we went to Worlds and saw how many amazing athletes it is, and how well it was run. And then as soon as we went to Worlds, we just came back and thought, like, this is a sick sport we definitely want to be a part of.
Did you go into Nice thinking you could win? I should say, by the way, you won the 16 to 29 age group mixed doubles World Championships. What was your time? Do you know your time? 54. 54.
20.
Amazing.
Oh, no, maybe 50 something. I don't know.
54, 58.
You got it. Amazing.
Did you think you could win going into it?
Well, yeah, we actually did. I mean, I actually, to be fair, I think we knew the time that we could get is what we knew. And actually, I think definitely not one to make excuses at all. But the 3 days before the competition, we were bedridden. I mean, I was throwing up. So definitely wasn't the world's prep I'd hoped for. But we had planned and trained for a faster time than what we achieved. But again, I mean, we were stoked to win. But yes, we definitely believed we could win because we trained to get a better time than what we did.
It's a brilliant time. And I was talking with a few people in Nice, and it becomes clear that in HYROX, when you're not at 100% for whatever reason, sometimes you don't even know that until you start racing. Like, it really does show up in your time. I think more than some other sports as well. Like, I think you can sometimes get through a 10K or whatever if you're not 100%, but in HYROX it really shows up, and you see it in the elite side of the sport more. Some guys just sometimes don't get their race, so to do that after being bedridden and everything is fantastic. How was the heat?
Like the heat in the center
in Nice?
is that something that everyone was talking about? I mean, it was really hot, and because I had a fever, I think it was exaggerated. But I mean, we're Australians, so we're used to the heat as well.
Yeah, true. I mentioned earlier that I asked on our stories like why people compete. What is your reason for doing it? What fires you up?
Good question. I just love pushing my limits and realizing what is possible. I think that especially for a girl, I think it is, well, a woman, I shouldn't say a girl. I'm pretty old now. Just kidding. But
You're definitely
for
not.
a woman, it's I think it's so important that we find confidence in who we are and what we can do. And I mean for a man too, but I'm a woman, so I can only comment for girls. But it's so important that we find confidence in who we are and what we're capable of doing rather than just how we look or what we have and things like that. And so for me, I love pushing my limits, and every time you run harder than what you thought you could, you go, man, these limits don't have to be where we've placed them. And I just love that feeling. As in, at home we have a run club called the Mega Run, and we run every Sunday because it's the hardest day of the week to wake up early in the morning and get after it. But it means that, oh, you only get people there who really want to show up and push their limits. And ultimately, we run any distance up to 10K, but often people who will come and their goal will be 10K. And you just see when people run their 10K for the first time, that confidence that they have in themselves, that they go, man, I didn't think I could do that. And then now I just went and smashed that 10K. What else am I placing a limit on in my life? And because me personally, in my younger years, I think I did place limits on myself, not necessarily in my athletic performance, but maybe more in my personal capacity. It just makes me so much more passionate about, one, pushing my own limits to know who I am, but two, to inspire others to do the same, because that is the best way to live. Like, we've literally only got one life. We should be doing what we're passionate about. And for me, I'm really passionate about helping other people see that amazing thing that they have inside themselves. I do believe everyone is called to do something special in their life.
Love it, love it. You talked about the run clubs. I was going to ask you about that. So, can you tell us a bit about those? What you're doing, how they came about, how they've grown? Yeah, give us a bit of
Sure.
background on those.
So we started running, I will say, before it was cool. And it was back in 20 start of 2021. Actually, even further back than that, 2019, I listened to a Goggins podcast ages ago, and I just remember thinking, Man, this guy's a savage, obviously, but he could I think actually my dad was going to do the Gold Coast Marathon in 2019, and I really wanted to run it with him, but I was injured at the time. And so I was listening to Goggins, and I'd taken 3 months off because I had a hip injury that just was not healing. And so the physio said, last resort, take 3 months off. So I did, and didn't do anything. So then the day before the marathon, I just thought, you know what? Like, if Goggins can go and run 100 Ks off the back of nothing, I can go and run a marathon, as in, let's go find out what I'm capable of. And so I registered the day before with my dad and went and ran the marathon. And it was a run, walk, and crawl marathon. It hurt so bad, but I got it done. And then after reflecting on the marathon, I thought, there's a difference between pushing yourself in one feat and then pushing yourself consistently and being disciplined over time. And I think something that this generation and this world lacks is that discipline over time, because we get everything so instantaneously through things like social media. So then I just decided myself, I'd also just moved to the Gold Coast to study physio, and there was a huge party culture. Everyone was going out on Saturday nights. And as I say, like, I was never a big drinker, and now I don't drink at all. And so I decided to just commit to myself that every Sunday for 2021, I'd run 10Ks at 6 a.m. And so I started doing it. And at the start, everyone was thinking, or my friends were thinking, what are you doing? This is so crazy. Because some days it'd be pouring rain and I'd go out and run. And at, I think, the end of February, this is actually how I met Will, who's now my husband. He slid into the DMs and said, this looks pretty cool that you're going running on a Sunday. Can I come for a run? And he came for the run, and then that was literally how we started Mega Run. He brought some friends the following week. I brought some of my friends, but we didn't really intend to start a run club. It just kind of happened. And then I remember I put it on my story one week and said, hey, if anyone wants to come running on a Sunday with me, then come along. And I think 3 people showed up one weekend that I'd never met before, and they ran their first 10K that they've done in ages. And and like seeing the joy on their face after they'd run the 10K, I just thought this is so sick. And so I knew I was going to be showing up every Sunday anyway, so why not put it out there if other people wanted to join? And then it just went a bit bonkers because I think it was COVID around that time, and we had 150 to 200 people rocking up most Sundays. And before this happened, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, can you put it on Saturday because then we can go out Saturday night?" And I'm thinking, "You're missing the point. As in the point is that it's on Sunday, so we don't go out Saturday night." And yeah, I just couldn't believe that. One, I didn't know the kinds of people that I'd never met them before, but the people that were rocking up on Sundays were just so epic. They had such a good mindset. It's like when you go to a HYROX comp and everyone you meet there is so cool because they know how to hurt and they're invested in themselves. I think it's so cool. And so, yeah, that was the start of Mega Run. And then people asked to start them in other locations. And so we actually grew very quickly to, I think, 31 locations around the world. But then I realized that it's not so fun managing that many people around the world for a volunteer run club. So I kind of brought my way back down and made it really clear about the people that, because it needs to be enjoyable for you or else there's no point. And so a lot of the run clubs kept going, but just not as mega runs because all the leaders of the locations are really close, and so we have a fortnightly call together and just push each other's limits. And you see someone go out and run. One of them actually ran 115 Ks just on the weekend, just gone, as in they're always doing crazy things. And so it's cool to have a group of people leading all the locations that not only push the people at the locations but also inspire us as well to continue to push our limits. So yeah, that's how Mega Run started. It's a free run club. You show up on a Sunday and you push your limits, whatever that is. Doesn't matter if it's 1K or if that's 10. We just want to see you show up with a positive attitude and have a crack.
Amazing, love it. And so that you all run at different paces, do you, or
Yeah,
you all run
yeah.
together?
Everyone, the way it works is you run out 5Ks maximum and then run back the same track. So you can turn around at any time, and that way everyone can run whatever pace they want and not feel pressured by anyone else. But everyone is so focused on what they're doing, no one cares what anyone else is doing.
Love it. I heard a quote yesterday. I won't do it here, but it's like it was by Timothy Leary, like find the others, and it was about like finding your people. And there's sort of so many people out there with the same interests as you, thinking the same things as you, but it's not necessarily like the typical conversation in the world, but people going out drinking because that's what everyone else is doing, whereas there's this whole community of people that don't necessarily want to go and do that, and they need to find the others. And I think things like that run club and HYROX really sort of help to bring those people together. It's yeah, I love it. All right, cool. So you've touched on it, but you've done some other like endurance events. You mentioned Goggins, so I think you did you do the 10K every 4 hours? Was that it?
Yes, so there's something called the Goggins challenge. I think he does it every year or every couple of months maybe, but he runs 4 miles, so I think that's 6.5 Ks, don't quote me, 6.4 maybe, every 4 hours for 48 hours. And we were going to do it because people had started doing it, and we thought, oh, that's a cool challenge because obviously you have to manage sleep deprivation and your food and things like that. It just sounded like a cool challenge to try. But then we just thought, oh, I feel like 6.5 Ks is probably going a bit light for us. And so we decided to make it a Mega Goggins, meaning a mega run every 4 hours for 48 hours, because mega run's 10Ks. So yeah, we did that. And that was a great experience because it takes an hour to do the run, and then you've got 3 hours until your next run for 48 hours. And in that 3 hours, you've got to eat, get some rest, manage your muscles, and then get organized to run again. And so it was very interesting. Plus, also your body starts to go into that recovery. Your muscles actually start recovering. It felt worse than running the 100Ks that we ran just all out, because our muscles would start recovering, and then you go, okay, here we go, we're going again. But it was really fun because I did it with other people, so it was great.
What was the By the way, if there's one person that doesn't need like mega put in front of an idea of theirs, it's Goggins, right?
Yeah, that is so true.
um, but what was the worst part about it? Was it like sleep deprivation? Just
Mm, I think it's different for everyone, but for me, I actually found it really hard to get food in because I would finish and my body would be hot. I figured out a strategy, which I'll tell you if anyone wants to do it, but I would finish, my body would be hot, so I didn't feel like eating, and then I would eat too soon to the next run, or like my food wouldn't be digested. So I just started switching over to just having gels in between it or having smoothies that would just digest really quickly, and also jumping in an ice bath as soon as we got back from the run, so you cool down straight away. Um, I didn't find the sleep deprivation too bad. I mean, it's only 48 hours and you can get sleep. You can get an hour of sleep here and there and you feel pretty good. It's more after you finish, you don't feel so great. Um, but yeah, I'd say just getting little niggly injuries and things like that, that's what makes it hard because you think, why the heck am I doing this? That's part of it. And then you just remind yourself that this is literally what you wanted. You wanted it to be hard. And then you just smile your way through it.
that's yeah, yeah. That's why I'm here. Like I talk about that sometimes in HYROX. Like this is hard, but like that's the purpose of it in a way. That's
Yeah.
why I'm here. You said I'll share my strategy if anyone wants to hear it. Is it what was that?
Oh, I would just say as soon as you come back, ice bath, um, eat things that are easy to eat like smoothies, and prepare your food beforehand so you don't have to be cooking it throughout the 48 hours, and sleep sooner than you think you need. So that like I mean, if you can nap in between every single run, that would be amazing. And make sure you set your alarms.
Okay, and you've done 100 miler as well.
Yes, I have done a 100 miler. That was extremely tough.
Was it? Is that something like you trained for? You prepped for?
Um, we're not, I wouldn't say we are people who HYROX, now that we are considering that our sport, we put everything into that and we're training for that. But when we did ultra marathons, it was more of we don't run because we never ran because we were runners per se. We just ran because we love the mental challenge that comes with running. As in, everybody knows that when they run, you're going to hit a point where you want to stop or slow down, or your mind somehow convinces you that it's better to run 8Ks instead of 10Ks that day. And we just realized that every time you practice pushing past that point, that's when you realize that like you don't have to listen to that voice of self-doubt and you can do anything that you put your mind to if you're willing to put the work in. And so for us, when we started doing the 100Ks, it actually came from one of the other leaders of the mega run was going to do a 100K race, and we just thought, why aren't we doing it? I mean, if she's doing it, we should definitely do it. And that was literally how we signed up. But at the time, not many people were doing them, but we did know Goggins had done them. And I think before I'd run a marathon the few years prior, but since that, I think in training for that, I think the most we ran was 35 Ks in the trails before we did the 100. And then we did the Mega Goggins challenge before we did the miler. And I actually think that was really good preparation for it. But I would say a lot of running an ultra marathon is actually mental. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously you want to be doing strength training and running training, but you can't prepare to go and run 100 Ks exactly unless you go and run 100 Ks. And I just think that kind of defeats the purpose of running it, as in the challenge is in the race itself. And so yeah, we more did those as challenges mentally to see how deep we could dig and find out more about yourself. And I mean, it's in those darkest times that you're forced to get really real with yourself. It's actually one of my favorite things about running, and it's probably the same with HYROX, is that you can't fake what you're motivated by when you're hurting. Like,
Mhm.
you can only be driven by what drives you, and so it really forces you to get real with yourself and with your insecurities, with the things that you need to work on, whatever it is. I just think it's so great getting in that hurt locker and finding your way out. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it does. It's great. It's great. I often talk with people and hear about where their mind goes during those tough
Mm,
times, and maybe it's different in a in like say 100K to HYROX, where like your heart rate's through the roof. But where does yours go?
I do think it is different from my minimal experience in HYROX. I think it's in my 3 races, it's been very different to an ultra marathon. More because I think in an ultra, it's like pain, as in your joints and your feet are hurting, whereas in HYROX, it's like cardio hurting. But I think I still, I think one thing that helps me is I remember all the times in the ultra marathons that I thought I was done and that I had nothing left, and then there was always more. And I think about that a lot. I also think about if I give up, how I will feel. I think about how good I'll feel when I'm done. And then I think about the bigger purpose of what I'm doing it for, which is not only for myself, but to inspire other people that they can do it too. That's definitely something that drives me. And I do really think about that every time. I think it kind of feels like if I give up, I'm giving up. I'm showing everyone else that like you can give up. But I think you can learn a lot from the times that you, I guess, fail and try again. But I think no one ever feels good giving up. So
No.
you've either got to learn from it and be better, or just dig deep and keep on going. I think it's like you either live with the pain of discipline or regret, and I freaking hate regrets. So I'm definitely choosing the pain to keep on going.
It's a bit like you were saying at the start, like with this race at the weekend, where you weren't feeling that great and you thought about pulling
Oh,
out. But like in your future races now, like the fact you completed that just
mm.
stands you in such great stead, doesn't it, for when you're struggling in future races, like knowing you got through that. Yeah.
It definitely does. I think I actually, because I was thinking to myself, why did that happen? As in, why did I have such a bad feeling in the race? As in, I actually got a bit negative in my head, and I was thinking, why did that happen? But then I thought, every time that you have a low in your life, it's such a driving force forward to learn from it and get better. And I just want to say, I'm not ungrateful that I placed the what place that I did or got the time that I did, but when you are aiming for goals that are bigger than just your qualification um, competition. That's why I'm hard on myself, as in my goals are not incomparable to anyone else. It's not just a placing on the podium, as in it's a goal of my potential is what I'm driving towards.
Mm. I've mentioned a few times in here, but I always remember like one of my doubles races where I think I probably had like I was so ill afterwards. I think I probably had COVID at the time,
Oh
and
no.
it was just like awful from start to finish. We paced it badly, but I think like I almost look back on it fondly now because everything else is like I can't feel that bad again. Hopefully, and this, yeah, yeah. Um, let's talk about your training, running training in particular. It's and I know you gave HYROX some focus after that your initial race back last year, but it was clear that your run times had improved a lot between your first HYROX and what you did in Nice.
Yeah.
Can you talk about your running training a little bit more? Like what sort of mileage are you doing? Are you focusing on mainly is it long slow work? Are you doing a lot of speed work? What does it look like?
Um. Well, I think the biggest difference between last year and this year is obviously that we actually did properly train with the focus towards HYROX, and I think um, there's 4 main running sessions that we will do. So obviously a long, slow run, just aerobic base. I mean, ultimately HYROX is aerobic, but like zone 5 aerobic. But we so yeah, long slow. We do a long slow run most weeks. We'll do an interval session. I think as in intervals meaning do like track work. So maybe 4 times 1K reps or 6 times 800 reps or whatever it is. Always longer, four to 1.2K reps, 400 to 1.2K reps, and um, that I think is what has made the biggest difference in terms of my speed, just because I was doing the longer runs beforehand, but I've never really focused that much on speed work. And so yeah, we hit track at least once a week. every week, and yeah, that's made a huge difference. And then I think looking into, we do tempo work or fartlek training, so going between faster and slower paces. And then we do focus now, and I think we actually probably could have done more of this before we competed, but we will focus on it even more as actually compromise running and just like practicing doing. I think we've practiced doing a lot of body weight with running, but not so much lifting with running. And I think that's what we will focus on in the next season, is making sure that we're doing things like heavy sled pushes straight into a run or heavy sled pulls straight into a run. I definitely know that me as an individual athlete, I have a lot to improve in terms of my pull strength, because in aerobics you do a lot of push work, as in I'm very strong on my chest, but need to work on my back strength. That's definitely my weakness. But yeah, pretty confident in our running paces, and it definitely helps that. I mean, Will is a great doubles partner because he's a bit faster than me at running. Well, I should say a lot. He's very fast, and so we strategically changed it that he would run. He would start the exercises and finish them most of the time, and then I would do the work in between so I could get my breath and run better on the runs. Um, and yeah, ultimately in our training, we were running as close to 330s as possible for those 1K reps. Is in that's definitely the goal, and it still is the goal. So we'll see how we go moving forward.
Right. Do you feel like so you've done your first individual HYROX at the weekend?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts or immediate thoughts on like the difference between that and doubles? And then also, like, would you change your training in any way to cater for doubles
Mm,
or individual?
that's a good question. I mean, it's hard for me to I guess take an accurate reading from the weekend, just because, and also Worlds, I feel like I didn't get too much feedback for myself. I probably got more through doing sims, but I hadn't even done a female's like solo sim before either. I just knew the paces that I can run, and I'd done workouts very similar to it. Um, Sorry, can you ask me that question again? Oh, to change my training for
Well, will
solos. Is
you
that
change your training, yeah, for it? And just even like, what your were the thoughts on, like, do you prefer the individual to the doubles? Was it, oh my god, like this is so different? Anything like that?
um, yeah, it did feel very different. I love doubles just because it I just love it. And it also, in my fitness, I'm definitely better at, if you give me 10 seconds of recovery, almost 100%.
Mhm.
And so I think knowing that now, I would, one, I definitely know I've got a lot of strength to build in order to do solos, and especially pro. And that is the plan, is to take some time in our off season, whenever that's happening, to really build strength over. And then, because my running is good, as in my running is good, it just needs I just need to build that strength so that it doesn't ruin my runs. um, and then yeah, I think I'll always love doubles. I find it more fun, but ultimately, like, the biggest challenge is doing it by yourself. So, um, yes, I will be focusing more on strength work and then combining that with my running.
What are your goals for HYROX? Like you mentioned, you want to do pro. Do you think you can get to like the elite 15 level?
Well, I mean, if you don't believe you can, then why the heck are you trying? Is my opinion. As in, of course, of course, I believe that anything is possible. So I'm always going to be striving to ultimately be the best in the world. But whether, you know, huge respect to the athletes that are at that point now, and whether or not I choose to put the time and effort into doing that over the next few years is more the question that I'm asking myself. I do believe that I have the potential and the work ethic. I've just got to choose whether or not it's really what I want to do, or maybe whether I want to have babies. I don't know. It's a hard decision for me. So, but yes, I definitely believe, in the goal for this year would be to make the elite 15s. Yes.
Okay, all right, amazing. Tell us a bit. You talked about the run clubs. Tell us a bit more about your other businesses. So you've got the is it merch? Is that
Clothing. Yeah.
yeah?
So we made obviously we realized that we love doing the run clubs, but the run clubs are always going to be free. and now we want to focus on being athletes. So we do HYROX and running programming as online training programs. So we've got the 12-week HYROX program, and then we give programs to help people run either their first or a PB time in 10, 21, or 42-kilometer races. And then and we've had some freaking crazy results, as in one of my friends just ran, he went from running a 2:02 half marathon to a 1:28 in 10 weeks.
Wow.
So it was freaking unreal. And he followed everything to a T, and that's why he got it done. And it also really targets mindset. I think that's probably how we do things a little bit differently, is it's more of a whole look at the athlete. You know, how do you build those 1%ers? How do you build a mindset that's going to allow you to not get in the way of the goals that you actually can achieve? And then the second thing that we do is the performance running apparel. So we've been in the process of making this for the last 18 months, and it hasn't been an easy process, but we said to ourselves when we started that we wouldn't bring anything to market that we didn't believe was the best thing that we could find on the market. And so we have just launched in the last couple of months, or maybe not even that long, maybe 1 month, our performance running sock. And I genuinely can say without a doubt that it's the best sock that I have ever worn. And the story of how we got it is just insane, as in we went to Europe and worked with this factory that allowed us to get the sock that they made, go for a run, come back, make changes. And we did that 28 times with them to make these socks. So we're so excited about it. And actually, I will send you some socks to try
Okay,
because we
amazing.
love your opinion. Alex actually wore them in his 16K. Sorry, not 16K, his 5K 16-minute race the other day, and he loves them. So yeah, we're really
That's
passionate.
Ronkovic, I should say, for people that don't know. Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. Sorry, I'd probably pronounce it wrong. Ronkovic. I'm just used to saying it.
Ronchovic, I think it is Ronchovic. Yeah.
It's gonna get crazy. But yeah, that's what we do. So performance running apparel and the training programs.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for this. It's been fantastic. Excited to see what you can do in HYROX. There's one more question, which, to be fair, I've kind of stopped asking, but I think I think you're going to have a good answer to it. So no pressure. If you could put a message out to the world on a billboard for everyone to see, what would it say?
Okay, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's on my wrist, actually, on the band. It's "You are capable of more." As in, I'll say the bigger quote on the outside of that. It's through the feats of others we realize what's possible, and it's through the feats of our own that we realize we are capable of more. And I say that because the perfect example is that you look at HYROX and you could say, oh, I never thought anyone could go sub 1 hour as an individual. And then now all of these people have gone sub 1 hour. And you think, oh, well, if I'm willing to put in the effort that that person put in, and you've got to respect the work that they do, then you can do that too. And so I love using what other people have done who have been from worse circumstances than what I have to completely obliterate my excuses and inspire me that I can too. And then through pushing your own limits, you realize those limits don't actually have to be there. They're just wherever you place them. So you are capable of more, and you should live. Your greatest contribution to humanity is living your passion. That is definitely something I live by as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. Love it.
Thank you.
Where should people go to follow you, find out more about you and everything you're doing?
My Instagram is Meg Sutherland. I'm now a Martin, but Meg Sutherland, Sutherland. And then our apparel brand on Instagram is This Is Mega, but it's M3GA. So that's the best place to go. And then from my page, you'll find the programs and the running club as well. I have lots of Instagrams because there's lots of different things going on. But mainly just go to mine and you'll find everything from there.
Okay, amazing. And when are you racing next? Are you doing the Australia events?
Yeah, we actually are. We're doing relays in Sydney is the plan. So Will's doing an all men's relay. I'm doing an all female relay. And then that's all. We're really excited to just have a fun race like that. And then the plan at this stage, which may change because I'm meeting with someone that helps me with my coaching tomorrow as well. We'll probably do doubles in Brisbane and then potentially pro in Perth.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good luck for all of that. Good luck with
Thank
everything.
you.
And hopefully talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me.